Before this year's Henan Spring Festival Gala was abruptly cut short. A segment titled Yuyu Longmen, Joy at the Dragon Gate made an unexpected appearance. In it, the haunting, sorrowful cry of a crane pierced the sky, echoing the departure of a young man and his companions. Though it lasted less than a minute, the sequence felt like a letter written to those who are no longer with us. Many believe it was a tribute to Yu Menglong. One can't help but wonder, was his essence hidden there all along, among the koi swimming desperately against the current? And the theme of that stage was etched into 8 simple words. Beneath the endless stretch of night, mountains and rivers stand silent under the silver glow of a brilliant moon. There are calls for the generals to step up and restore our nation's former glory. This isn't just some cultural performance or traditional aesthetic, it's a raw metaphor for the reality we're living in. Some even link it to the ancient prophecies of the Tui Bei Tu. The endless night represents the thick, suffocating darkness and fog surrounding us, while that brilliant moonlight is the spiritual radiance of the Ziwei, the great deliverer. A single fish, a young man, a dance, and 8 sacred words. Who would have thought they held the power to bring such a massive event to a grinding halt? Hey Tracers, welcome back. Today we're diving into a broadcast that was cut short, leaving behind a trail of symbols and silent screams. From the tragic memory of Yu Menglong to prophecies hidden in plain sight, we're unraveling why a few minutes of art terrified the powers that be. Because you never know how deep this hole goes. Roughly an hour into the live broadcast of the 2026 Henan Spring Festival Gala, everything went dark. Replays on platforms like Douyin and Bilibili vanished instantly, scrubbed from the internet. The official explanation from the authorities consisted of just 2 cold, clinical words: force majeure. But everyone knows that a true act of God is rarely a natural disaster. It's more often the heavy hand of man. Just moments before the feed was cut, a brief segment, lasting a mere 54 seconds, quietly flickered onto the screen. It opened with a title that whispered of something deeper. Yuyu Longmen, Joy at the Dragon Gate. 2 giant cranes, born from swirls of smoke, dance with a haunting grace, their forms trembling amidst washes of pale yellow ink. Their movement is mirrored by a piercing, heart-wrenching cry. A caption flickers onto the screen, the desperate wail of the crane. It isn't a song of celebration. It sounds like a sob, a young man's final, dying effort to make his voice heard one last time. The scene then dives into the depths of a deep, midnight blue water. Golden carp weave through lotus flowers drifting in the dark. A boy in traditional robes, barely 10 years old, sits calmly atop a fish's back. With his neatly cropped hair and innocent face, the resemblance to Yu Menglong is striking. He looks up at the sky. A school of fish begins to swim against the current, surging through the water's surface, piercing heavy black clouds and tearing through the thick, suffocating fog. Their bodies begin to shift, their scales ignite with a brilliant glow. Finally, beneath a vast canopy of stars, the fish transforms into a colossal blue Peng bird. The young man remains seated upright on its back, his gaze fixed firmly on the stars above. He journeys toward rebirth and liberation. On the screen, the captions flash repeatedly. Yuyu Longmen, Yufu Kang Cheng, Hua Yu Wai Peng, Yue Xiang Xing Chen. Beyond the Dragon Gate, scaling the heavens, transforming into the Peng bird, soaring toward the stars. This isn't just mythology. It's a struggle against the suffocating weight of reality, a desperate flight of oppressed souls seeking to soar high. This is a tribute long overdue, a final proof that there is one name that the darkness must never be allowed to swallow. Golden, oversized characters slowly materialize on the screen. Beneath the endless stretch of night, mountains and rivers stand silent under the silver glow of a brilliant moon. The faint strains of music drift from the distance, sounding like a final farewell, yet heavy with a lingering weight, as if there were words desperate to be spoken, only to remain forever unsaid. The legend of Yuyu Longmen, the carp leaping over the Dragon Gate, finds its roots in the Xinxi Sanqingji, later immortalized in the Taiping Guangji. As the story goes, only the golden carp of the Yellow River, those with the strength to swim against the crushing current and leap over the dragon gate, possess the power to transform into dragons. But today, the fish is no longer just a fish. It has become a symbol for the oppressed. Through the suffocating cracks of tight censorship, this ancient mythology has become the safest language for communication, and in an instant, the people understood exactly what it meant. Yu Menglong, a soul so kind, so beautiful, and yet so profoundly tragic, has not been forgotten. Henan did not forget him. Thank you, Henan, for proving that there are still those among us with courage and a conscience. The haunting cry of the crane at the beginning felt so much like the final scream of the little fish. It was a courageous act of speaking from the heart, a voice representing the silent screams within us all. It is clear that the people of Henan will never forget Yu Menglong. But why? In 2021, when Henan was struck by devastating floods, Yu Menglong quietly donated 500,000 yuan, approximately $70,000. This wasn't just a gesture from someone with money to spare, it was every last cent he had. It's said that after that donation, his bank balance was left with a mere 387 yuan, hardly $50. That was the third year he had been blacklisted from the entertainment industry. He had no roles to play, no right to speak, and nowhere to turn. Yet, he still chose to give his last remaining spark of light to others. At the lowest point of his life, he emptied his life savings to contribute those 500,000 yuan. And when asked how he would survive, he simply smiled and said, "This is enough." Perhaps, if the Henan Spring Festival Gala truly was a tribute to him, it proves one thing: kindness is never forgotten, and silence will not last forever. The haunting cry of the crane continues to echo across the internet. Netizens have begun to draw parallels between that sorrowful wail and the tragic fate of Yu Menglong, sparking a profound sense of heartache and deep sympathy among all who hear it. People are beginning to remember him all over again. They remember the final 387 yuan in his bank account, they remember the 3 long years his career was frozen in time, and they remember the young man who chose to give his last remaining spark of light to others. The wind whispers through the justicia trees, hidden in the shadows, lifting a cup beneath the moonlight, calming the vast, restless seas, waiting for the breeze while drowning in longing. But alas, these lyrics have become the voice of a deep, aching yearning, a tribute from netizens everywhere to the memory of Yu Menglong. The sudden termination of the 2026 Spring Festival Gala broadcast ignited a massive explosion of public opinion online. This was no ordinary technical glitch. The content itself was deemed to have crossed into forbidden territory. The entire celebration was built around the core of traditional Chinese culture, from the majestic beauty of Hanfu to scenes depicting divine heritage, and even the eerie ascent to the heavens phenomena that appeared throughout the show. However, the performance that truly stole the spotlight was a dance titled "Sprinting Through the Endless Night," Chang Ye Zhong Jin. A collaboration with the games Arena Breakout and Where Winds Meet by Tencent. The performance centers on traditional tactical armor, guafeng, and the culture of soaring wings. Its stage design draws heavy inspiration from the landscapes of Bianjing during the Northern Song Dynasty. As seen in the game Where Winds Meet, Yan Yun Shiliu Sheng, creating an epic atmosphere of a chaotic world on the brink of awakening and heroes standing at the ready. The dialogue on that stage, however, carried a far weightier significance. There was a rallying cry that echoed, "General, act now to restore our nation's glory." In a purely cultural context, these words could be understood as a traditional expression of patriotism. But against the backdrop of today's reality, segments of the audience caught a different undertone. This wasn't just history, it was a sharp, biting satire. As the performance unfolded and new themes emerged, 8 specific words beneath the endless stretch of night. Mountains and rivers stand silent under the silver glow of a brilliant moon rapidly became the center of a massive controversy. Supporters believe this symbolizes that the darkness must inevitably pass, and a brilliant light will soon arrive, a classic Chinese narrative of rebirth after the deepest gloom, or PG Tai Lai. However, other netizens interpret this through a far more high-stakes political lens. The endless night is seen as a representation of a dark era that has reached its absolute limit, where the term the end, Zongjin, implies a finality or a fall. In the context of recent events involving Zhang Yuxia, followed by purges within the military and shifts in power, many have begun to link this to unstable military loyalties and political upheaval. It is being understood as a symbolic signal that a massive transformation is at the doorstep. Yet, what is far more sensitive is the program was also saturated with narratives of divinely inspired culture, Shen Chuan Wenhua, celestial ascensions, heavenly destiny, and the return of the gods, all notably devoid of any reference to party leadership. To some observers, this cultural orientation is seen as a stark departure from the aesthetic of state-mandated atheism. Reports suggest that this expression of values triggered a wave of internal complaints and caught the attention of high-ranking officials, with some even claiming it struck a chord of fear within Xi Jinping himself. Shortly after, the live broadcast was cut off. Authorities offered the vague explanation of force majeure, but the internet erupted instantly. Heated debates flared over what the CCP truly fears, whether it is the uprising of the common people or the metaphorical return of the gods. Once again, the focus of the discussion returned to those 8 characters. Beneath the endless stretch of night, mountains and rivers stand silent under the silver glow of a brilliant moon. Many comments suggest that this dance, with its visual narrative of fire consuming the endless night and tactical armor standing guard over the mountains and rivers, has constructed a symbolic path, a journey out of the darkness and into the brilliant light. It is precisely this narrative of transition, of profound change, that is believed to have struck a sensitive nerve within today's reality. And so, a cultural expression was ultimately read as a political prophecy, a brief dance transformed into a fuse that brought the entire broadcast to a grinding halt. In this sudden silence, there are those who finally understood its meaning, and there are others who are terrified that its meaning might be understood by the masses. Several netizens on Platform X have begun linking the phrase, "beneath the endless stretch of night." Mountains and rivers stand silent under the silver glow of a brilliant moon to the ancient prophecies of the Tuibei-Tu. Specifically, they point to verse 46, titled "The Deep, Suffocating Fog," and in Yin Mai, and verse 47, titled "The Brilliance of the Zi-Wei Star, Zi-Wei Xingming." This symbolism suggests that the darkness will ultimately be consumed by fire, and the moonlight will illuminate every mountain and ocean across the land. It is being interpreted as a powerful metaphor, that the era of darkness is destined to pass, and an era of light is about to begin. For context, the Tuibei-Tu is an ancient book of prophecy authored by Li Chunfeng and Yuan Tiangang during the Tang dynasty. A thick, suffocating fog, a slaughter without a single blade. The people shall not perish, but one man shall find no escape. The Song of Praise. There is a golden man who stands in place of the people. He claims only to be a white-haired old man. At the eastern gate, a golden sword is drawn, forever entering the underground palace through the back door. The prophecy in verse 46 does not depict a war in the traditional sense, but rather resembles an invisible purge. This is not about bloodshed by weapons, but a shifting of power amidst turbulent undercurrents. It is not about the death of thousands, but a target aimed with absolute precision. If we compare this to the stage narrative of sprinting through the endless night, where tactical armor is unveiled, generals are summoned, and the call to guard the homeland echoes the phenomenon, forms a haunting resemblance to the scene of power in the prophecy. Soldiers with drawn swords entering the palace. This is not about an overt conquest, but a shift from within the system, not about pressure from an external enemy, but a transformation happening behind closed doors. The thick, suffocating fog will ultimately vanish, and the era of oppression in the endless night has finally reached its limit. The word extinguish, jin, signifies that this fog will eventually be burned away until it is consumed. When the endless night is incinerated and the moonlight illuminates the world, perhaps that will be the beginning of a new order for the next stage. If verse 46 symbolizes the endless night, then verse 47 is more like the brilliant moonlight. The prophecy, Chen reads, "Bringing an end to war and advancing civilization, this is the dawn of a golden age. Even the common people share this great responsibility, for a single voice now holds the power to determine the leader." The Song of Praise. Song reads, "Our King, our brother, he is the one who shall bring peace to the universe, the first to rise from the ranks of the common folk. It is wise to return to the ancient teachings, for once he speaks, his brilliance will illuminate the world." At this point, we are no longer talking about the dark fog. We are witnessing the blueprint for a new world order. To end the war means to silence the guns, and to advance civilization means to reignite the flickering lamp of humanity. This is no longer a story of a purge. It is a story of creation. The rise of the brilliant Z-Way star signals a new mandate of heaven. This power isn't born from the edge of a sword, but from wisdom. The figure rising from the common folk represents a leader who relies on the power of ideas rather than bloodlines or military might, ruling through culture and education rather than fear and force. When we look at the theme, mountains and rivers under the silver moonlight, the meaning becomes clear. The source of light is no longer hidden. The nation is illuminated once again. A world without king or emperor reflects a stability free from the chains of authoritarianism, where the responsibility of the common people marks the true birth of civil power. This is the resonance of the Henan Gala. Only after sprinting through the endless night can the land finally welcome the true moonlight. This journey from the suffocating fog to absolute clarity doesn't depend on weapons, but on the birth of a new order triggering a wave of speculation about where the future is truly headed. While the phrase, "the endless night ends, mountains and rivers illuminated by the moon," continues to echo across the digital landscape, another recording from New Year's Eve has quietly begun to spark a powerful resonance. This time, a song from the celebration titled "Riding Toward the Spring," Tama Ying Chun, has gone viral. At a glance, it seems like your typical festive anthem bidding farewell to the old, welcoming the new, and celebrating the changes to come. But if you listen closely, there is something that feels off, an unsettling strangeness that is hard to put into words. As it turns out, the phrase "ta ma" appears repeatedly throughout the lyrics. Netizens have begun to speculate. If you call it an insult, the lyrics technically look like nothing more than New Year's greetings for the year of the horse. But if you call it a greeting, the vocabulary used is actually the standard national slur, appearing in every single line. This creates a linguistic tightrope, a space between a joke and a breakdown, highlighting just how much the public's anger in mainland China is reaching a boiling point. This gray area has become the most honest form of expression. Riding Toward the Spring, Tama Ying Chun, is no longer just music. It's a reflection of a collective emotion. It can be heard as a New Year's prayer or as an echoing whisper in the midst of oppression. The endless night hasn't fully vanished yet, but the surge of emotion is breaking the surface. In the viral clips, the singers are mostly young people. They are dressed in vibrant red, the hallmark of Lunar New Year joy, yet as they belt out lyrics like, "Itama give you strength," "Hope Tama, you have no more sadness," and "Itama send you blessings," it becomes impossible to tell if this is a sincere prayer or a blatant curse. Beyond the music, netizens in mainland China have begun creating New Year's cards that mock the CCP's practice of pointing at a deer and calling it a horse, a classic idiom for distorting the truth. With public fury smoldering, the CCP is on edge. Any New Year's content perceived as a satire of reality is being scrubbed from the internet entirely. The atmosphere is suffocating, as if enemies are lurking everywhere. Alongside the emergency shutdown of the Henan Gala, a critical video by the famous creator Poppy, which poked fun at the New Year festivities, has also been completely wiped from the web. On February 2nd, content creator Poppy uploaded a short video simulating the high-pressure environment of the Spring Festival Gala's directing team. Her initial intent was simply to mock the creative chaos and the suffocating censorship surrounding the event. However, to everyone's surprise, the video went viral in a flash and was scrubbed from existence even faster. The ultimate irony lies in the most dramatic moment of the sketch, where Poppy, playing the role of the director, shouts, "It's too funny! Shut it down!" That single line became a perfect, self-fulfilling prophecy for her own video, which was ultimately silenced by the authorities. Netizens were left caught between bitter laughter and genuine amusement. They joked that this video was no longer just content, it had become a prophecy, a high-level piece of performance art. Many are calling it the most ironic closed-loop moment of the year. The line, "It's too funny, shut it down," has now transformed into a living, breathing masterpiece of reality. From hidden tributes to accidental curses and ancient prophecies, the Henan Gala blackout proves one thing. You can cut the feed, but you can't stop the message once it's out there. The night might be long, but the moonlight is starting to bleed through the cracks. What do you think? Was it just a technical glitch, or are we witnessing the beginning of the end? Let me know in the comments. If you're still watching this, maybe you're looking for the same thing I am.